And we are back. Welcome back to the Champions League prediction series after what has been an incredible weekend on the channel. Not only were we able to get a fair few predictions absolutely spot on in the Premier League this weekend, but we were also able to get to 5,000 subscribers on the channel. Another major milestone. You can see how much growth we've had over the course of the last month at the bottom as well. So as always, thank you so much for all the support you have been giving the channel this season. Bear in mind, target for the entire season was 5,000 subscribers, and we've got there at the start of November. So who knows? Maybe we can potentially push 10,000 as the new target for the end of the season. So again, thank you so much for all the support you have been giving this channel over the course of this season already. Don't forget that I do have another channel, my SO99 gaming channel. We stream on there multiple times a week, so if you guys ever want to just hang out or you have any questions about any predictions and that I do on this channel, feel free to subscribe to the gaming channel. Head over there where I am on most evenings streaming one thing or another, but most likely some more football content with FC25. But without any further ado, let's head back over to the predictions for today. And of course, a reminder, if you haven't done so already, please do drop a like on this video. And of course, do subscribe to this channel as well, so don't miss out on any of the predictions that we are doing. Of course, today's video will be the half-hour-long Champions League prediction video for all of the 18 matches taking place this week in the Champions League. Then tomorrow's video will be all 18 matches in the Europa League. And then Wednesday's video will be all 18 matches in the Europa Conference League. So let's head ourselves over to the prediction screen right now, where you will see that after match day 3, we are on 33 out of 54 in the Champions League with only 3 correct scores so far. So I'm not doing too bad in terms of the actual predictions, but the correct scores have not been as good as I would have liked. And of course, you can also now remember that we've started doing a new feature on this channel whereby I put little markers for every single game that we cover in this video. So if you're only here to look at predictions about your club, or if there's certain fixtures that you just have no idea about and you want to see a full breakdown on those fixtures, you can do so by looking at each of the individual small chapters at the bottom of your screen. So, and it's been really good to see you guys using that feature already in our last couple of Premier League videos. So thank you very much for that. And again, thank you very much for 5,000 subscribers. If there's any other things you would like to see me do, don't forget to let me know down in the comment section below. And if you've got any thoughts on any of the matches or just want to make your own predictions, again, make sure you're using the comment section down below. And without any further ado then, let's get into it. We've got 18 matches to cover once again. 9 games on Tuesday, 9 games on Wednesday. So let's get things started with the opening game on Tuesday. It's the early kickoff between 28th place PSV Eindhoven and 24th place Girona of Spain. Now, PSV drew their last match away to Paris Saint-Germain, which is a very good result. Girona were victors over Slovan. However, they have also lost away to Paris Saint-Germain this season. So a little bit of momentum already on PSV's favour, not to mention they are also at home. PSV did lose to Ajax at the weekend, 3-2, and Girona were able to win 4-3 over Leganés. Going into this, both sides are carrying a fair few injuries. PSV are still without their midfield duo of Veerman and Schouten. And now it looks like Sergio Dest and Irving Lozano could be doubtful and could miss this one. For Girona, they've lost Abel Luiz and Porto are both out, 2 of their forward line. And their probably best player, Zigankov, is still doubtful for this one as well. So both sides carrying a few problems going into this one. Both sides not playing at their best at the moment, but both sides involved in quite high-scoring games at the moment. So for me, this would normally be what I'd consider a routine 2-1 home win. But because of how many goals both sides are scoring and conceding, I'm instead going to go for a 3-2 win to PSV Eindhoven. Second game sees a bottom of the table, Slovan Bratislava, go at home to 22nd in the table, Dinamo Zagreb, who are doing better now. Like I said, they're 22nd. They drew with Monaco last time out and they won against Salzburg. So they put their 9-2 defeat to Bayern Munich behind them. Slovan, on the other hand, have been very, very poor so far, getting absolutely hammered in all of their matches so far. but they have been doing not so great domestically. Well, sorry. Slovan have been doing well domestically since their last defeat, whereas Dinamo have only won one of their matches domestically since Matchday 3. Going into it, they're both missing key players as well. Kučka, the former Watford player, is injured for Slovan, whereas Dinamo are without Petkovic. However, they have had Kulinovic fill in pretty well for them so far this season with 8 goals for him instead of their usual star striker. Ultimately, though, I just think the Slovakian side are not on the same level as the Croatian side, even though, like I say, form going into it would suggest Slovan have been playing better. I just don't think the Slovakian league is on the same level as the Croatian league, etc., etc. And the results would suggest that Dinamo are the stronger side. So I am going to go for a 3-1 win to Dinamo Zagreb in this one. On to the later kickoffs on Tuesday. The first of those matches sees Bologna, who sit 29th in the table, taking on 4th place Monaco. Now, that would immediately suggest to me, and probably to you guys, that Monaco should be considered the favourites for this. However, here is where I do think form in the domestic leagues matter. Because Bologna have won both of their matches since Matchday 3, and Monaco have lost both of their matches since Matchday 3, including losing at home to Angers at the weekend in Ligue 1. They are really, really struggling for goals. Balogun is out injured. Yes, they did score 5 against Zvezda Red Star Belgrade in Matchday 3, but they're not exactly the best team in this competition. And Bologna have now got Orsolini back in their lineup, and he scored on both of their wins in the last couple of weeks. So I look at the performances that Bologna showed against Liverpool, and I look at how poor Monaco have been in the last couple of weeks. Again, I look at how much they're struggling to score goals. And with the game being in Italy, I'm going to go for a Bologna win here. I'm going to go for 2-1. I think this is going to be Bologna's first win. I just think with Monaco's struggles, it's just the right time for Bologna to be playing them. Next up, it is Borussia Dortmund taking on Sturm Graz. Borussia Dortmund off the back of that collapse against Real Madrid, 2-0 up at the Bernabeu, ending 5-2 to the Spanish side. Taking on a Sturm Graz side that are 32nd in the league and are utterly pointless at the moment in the Champions League. For Borussia Dortmund, it's just a case of who the hell can they get fit? They have got probably the biggest injury crisis in the Champions League so far at the moment. They lost Sabitzer at the weekend in the game against Leipzig, which has just added to the list of first-team regulars like Adeyemi, Sula, Anton, Rierson, and Kobel is now out as well, the goalkeeper. They've got Kuto injured as well, who was their backup right back. They've got serious injury concerns coming into this. However, despite that, they were still able to beat RB Leipzig at the weekend. So you've got to say fair play to them for that. They're up against a side in Sturm Graz, like I've already said, that have already lost all 3 of their opening fixtures. It's in Dortmund. Realistically, there's only going to be one result here, despite the injury crisis, and that is a Dortmund win. And I'm going to go for 4-0 because they are still creating a lot of chances, and they've got a striker in Girassi who is still scoring a lot of goals. Speaking of Leipzig, they are taking on Celtic. It's 20th against 31st in this game. Celtic somehow surviving the absolute onslaught from Atalanta in Matchday 3. I think Atalanta had something like 2.8 XG in that game, and Celtic managed to keep the clean sheet thanks to Kasper Schmeichel, so fair play to him. Meanwhile, Leipzig are on 0 points in the Champions League so far. They're 31st in the table. To be fair, they have played Atletico, Juventus, and Liverpool. But, like we just said, they did lose to a very depleted Borussia Dortmund at the weekend as well. They themselves have lost Xavi Simons till the new year. He's picked up quite a serious ankle injury, I believe. But they still have Sesko and Openda scoring goals for fun at the moment. These two sides did meet in 2022. On both occasions, it was victory for Leipzig. And even though Celtic did get that incredible result against Atalanta, you've got to bear in mind in Matchday 2, they did concede 7 goals to Borussia Dortmund. So, considering that Leipzig only conceded 2 to Dortmund at the weekend, you've still got to consider Leipzig the favourites for this. But I've got to show Celtic some respect for that result against Atalanta. So I'm going to go for 2-1 Leipzig. I'd be surprised if Celtic keep another clean sheet, especially with it being at home and they're more likely to go for it. But we'll see. They've played well so far. You never know. They might produce another result there. Next up, it's the first sort of really tough clash to call because it is Lille taking on Juventus, the conquerors of Madrid in Lille, winning against Real Madrid and then going to Madrid themselves to beat Atletico. Meanwhile, Juventus are now 14th in the table and are actually somewhat struggling at the moment. Their defensive record has gone completely out the window. They had conceded no goals in Serie A until Matchday 3. And since Matchday 3, they had a 4-4 draw with Inter and then a 2-2 draw with Parma. So that defensive record's gone out the window for them. They lost at home to Stuttgart in their last game, with Danilo getting sent off, so he's going to be suspended for this. For Lille, they're another side that have multiple injuries, but they're still playing well domestically as well. They were, I'm not going to say robbed, but they conceded a last-minute equaliser to Lyon at the weekend, which resulted in that being a 1-1 draw. So with all of those things put together, I'm certainly not confident to say Juventus are going to win this match. If anything, I'd probably say Lille go into this as the favourites. But equally, I'm not confident enough to say they're going to win it either. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. On to another massive fixture. It is Liverpool taking on Bayer Leverkusen. It's the side that always wins against the side that never loses. It's second against 6. In fact, all of the top 3 sides in the Champions League at the moment, 1, 2 and 3, are English clubs. Arsenal being the ones letting us down. And that means that, realistically, you have to consider Liverpool the favourites for this. It's at Anfield. It's under the lights. It's basically Liverpool's new manager against the new manager they could have had in Xabi Alonso. For me, it's a really tight one to call in terms of injuries and suspensions. The only player really missing for either side that anyone should care about is Alisson in goal for Liverpool. Other than that, both sides have their usual regular first teamers available to them. It's going to be a clash of styles. It's going to be an interesting match. But I still think Liverpool come out on top, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory for Liverpool. We'll see. Can Leverkusen keep their unbeaten run going? Both sides are 11 games unbeaten at the moment in all competitions. So it's going to be a fascinating affair. Next up, it's a clash of 2 of the biggest European sides ever. I think the 2 most successful European Cup winners in Real Madrid and AC Milan. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Real Madrid sit 12th in the league after their comeback against Borussia Dortmund. AC Milan sit 25th in the Champions League after what's been a poor start to their season. The last time Real Madrid played, they might have lost 4-0 to Barcelona at home. Didn't play at the weekend due to the flooding in Valencia. That's where their match would have been. And obviously, thoughts to all the people affected by the flooding in Valencia and in Spain at the moment. For AC Milan, they got their first win last time out against Club Brugge, but then lost 2-0 at home to Napoli. It's just not been a good run of form at the moment for AC Milan. There's a lot of drama between the new management and Rafael Leao, who is arguably their star player, but he's been on the bench in 3 out of the last 4 matches. There's just a lot going on with both of these clubs at the moment. They did play in a pre-season friendly. If you want some sort of head-to-head record between them, AC Milan won that 1-0. But if you look at the starting lineups for both of those teams, it's nothing like what we're going to see in tomorrow's game. So there really isn't too much to go on going into this one, other than the fact that both teams are relatively fit. Both teams are in very choppy form. So I just think I have to go for who's the stronger side on paper, which for me is Real Madrid. And it's Real Madrid in the Champions League. So I'm going to go for a 4-2 victory to Real Madrid. Honestly, I just think anything could happen in that game. And then finally, for Tuesday, it is, in my opinion, as a Manchester United fan, the only fixture that matters this entire week. Like, for me, this game is more important than Manchester United's actual game in the Europa League on Thursday, because it is Ruben Amorim's final European game in charge of Sporting Lisbon, and he's taking on Man City in a game where the media are going to have an absolute field day, whatever happens here. If Amorim can beat Pep in this match, the media's going to be like, oh my God, Manchester United's saviour has arrived. He's going to turn Manchester United back into the best possible team. Look what he did to Pep Guardiola's Man City. On the flip side, if Manchester City win this 4 or 5-0, what an embarrassment it's going to be for Manchester United fans that their new manager has just been spanked by Manchester City. So I'm dreading what could happen in this game. Like, the best possible result, I think, as a Manchester United fan, is like 2-1 to Manchester City. In terms of the actual status, both sides are on 7 points. Man City are third, Sporting at 8. That is purely on goal difference. Manchester City are yet to concede in the Champions League so far this season. Sporting have only conceded 1 goal in the Champions League so far this season. So genuinely, it could actually be a tight affair. City obviously losing at the weekend. Really, really poor from them against Bournemouth. They're also sort of got a mountain of, I'll say, unfit players. They don't have many out-and-out injuries, but quite clearly Pep is worried about the overall fitness of his players. They're struggling. They're not quite hitting the levels he'd expect from them. So there is a genuine chance that Sporting come out on top here. But on paper, Man City should be stronger than Sporting Lisbon. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to Manchester City, which, as I said, is the result that I think is perfect for Manchester United fans, where they can go, okay, he puts up a good fight against Pep's teams, but he's using a Sporting side that's not at the level of Manchester City. So hopefully that's how it ends up. And that will do it for all of Tuesday's predictions. As always, don't forget to check out the little markers down at the bottom. So if you want to come back to check any of the fixtures once we get to the end of the video, you can do so. And without any further ado, once again, let's head over to Wednesday, where we have 9 more fixtures. And once again, we start off with 2 early kickoffs. And the first of those sees top of the table Aston Villa travelling to Belgium to take on Club Brugge. It is first taking on 26th Aston Villa. Like I say, 9 points out of 9, 6 goals scored and 0 conceded, taking on a Brugge side who are on 3 points after a defeat to AC Milan in Matchday 3, which saw Onyedika sent off and means he is now suspended going into this one. Since then, it has been 3 wins out of 3 for Brugge domestically, with 9 goals scored, whereas for Aston Villa, it has been draw at home to Bournemouth, lose to Palace in the Cup, and then well beaten 4-1 by Tottenham yesterday in the Premier League. So Villa come into this off the back of some really poor results, whereas Brugge come into this off the back of some really good results. Ultimately, though, Villa have been brilliant in this Champions League so far. They are well deserved of the top of their table spot. Brugge not been too great in the Champions League so far. On paper, Villa are by far the stronger side going into this one. The expectation would certainly be an Aston Villa win. So I'm going to go for 1-0. I'm not going to go crazy because they have been struggling in front of goals the last couple of weeks as well. But they've been grinding out results in the Champions League. They have been defensively immaculate. So that is where I'm going for it. I'm going for a 1-0 win to Aston Villa. The other early kickoff sees us heading to Gelsenkirchen in Germany for Shakhtar Donetsk taking on Young Boys. It is 30th taking on 35th. Shakhtar Donetsk have got 1 point so far in this Champions League. Young Boys have got 0 points so far in this Champions League. And after 3 match days so far, neither side has scored. So it's not looking good. Not only that, Young Boys have carried their poor form into their domestic league as well. They lost to Europa Conference side Lugano and then drew with Zurich at the weekend. They have several injuries going into this, and they've now got João Monteiro suspended as well. Shakhtar are, I think, only missing a couple of players, but they're not exactly key players. So you would have to say if you're going to pick a winner here, you'd have to go for Shakhtar. However, like I said, neither of these sides have scored so far in this competition. So for me, the only real result I can see being is the one result I hate going for, but I have to go for it. I'm going for 0-0. Like I said, if there's going to be a winner, it's going to be Shakhtar, but I just don't see it happening. I'm going for 0-0. Next up, we head on to the later kickoffs on Wednesday, and it's Bayern Munich taking on Benfica. Bayern Munich sit 13th in the table. Benfica now 23rd after both sides took an absolute hammering in Matchday 3. Bayern beaten 4-1 by Barcelona. Benfica beaten 3-1 at home by Feyenoord. Bayern Munich, of course, have now lost their last 2 matches, with Bayern losing to Aston Villa before the hammering to Barcelona. I actually might have got them the wrong way around. It might be Benfica 13th and Bayern 23rd. I can't actually remember, so I might have to check that one out. But regardless, it seems like a very, very long time ago that Bayern got that 9-2 victory on match day 1. However, since match day 2, Bayern have won all of their last 3 matches, scoring 12 goals and not conceding a single one. Benfica have also won all of their last 3 matches, scoring 10 goals and only conceding 1. So both sides come into this on a little bit of form, a little bit of momentum. They actually played in the 2021 Champions League, and ironically, after already mentioning 9-2, that was the aggregate scoreline between the two of these sides. It was 9-2 to Bayern Munich. And look, ultimately, I would have loved to have given Benfica something in this game, but that final game showed me that they're not quite at the level that I thought they were. The expectation has to be, especially at home, that Bayern Munich get the win here. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory to the German Giants. And speaking of Feyenoord, they come into this game against RB Salzburg in 16th place after that 3-1 win away to Benfica. Salzburg sit in 34th place in the table with no goals scored and no points scored. And, well, quite frankly, look at the state of their injury and suspension situation. I've not brought this up for anyone else because it's not been this bad for anyone else, but that is a lot of first-team players injured and 2 first-team players suspended as well. It's really not looking good for Salzburg. They're not even playing well domestically in Austria at the moment. Feyenoord, to be fair, are another side that have lost to Ajax in recent times, so more on Ajax in one of the later videos this week. They've been bouncing back, but Feyenoord have lost to Ajax as PSV did, but great performance against Benfica last time out. Salzburg are absolutely in the mud, both in terms of results and in terms of injuries and suspensions. So ultimately, there's only going to be one winner here. I'm going for Feyenoord, and I'm going for a 3-0 victory to the Dutch side. And speaking of hammerings, it's Zvezda, Red Star Belgrade, and they're taking on Barcelona. Again, as we've already said in this video, Zvezda on the receiving end of a 5-1 defeat to Monaco. Barcelona dishing out a 4-1 victory to Bayern Munich. However, they did also lose to Monaco in match day 1. Don't forget that. Zvezda are 33rd, Barcelona are 10th. The one thing you would say for Zvezda, Red Star, is they do always like to grab themselves a goal. So we will be giving them a goal when we come to the end of this prediction. Also, for Barcelona, of course, another thing we've already mentioned, not only did they beat Bayern Munich 4-1, they did also beat Real Madrid 4-0 away in the Clásico a couple of weeks ago, and then won against Espanyol at the weekend. Both of these sides have scored a hat load of goals domestically. Barcelona have got 50, that's right, 50 goals in just 15 games so far this season. Whereas back in Serbia, Red Star have managed 43 goals in 13 games. So expect goals in this football match. Both sides are pretty damn good at attacking, but ultimately, I'm not going to sit here and say Zvezda are going to get a result here. They might do. Who knows? It could be a crazy one. But ultimately, I've got to go for Barca, and I'm going to go for a repeat of the scoreline for Zvezda against Monaco. I'm going for 5-1 this time to Barcelona. Now moving on to probably the 2 biggest games of Wednesday night. The first of those is Inter Milan taking on Arsenal. This one sees 7th place taking on 9th place and sees 2 sides who are yet to concede in this Champions League so far this season. Arsenal drawing 0-0 with Atalanta and then getting 2 wins with a clean sheet. Inter drawing 0-0 with Manchester City and then getting 2 wins with a clean sheet. However, both sides have not exactly scored many goals. Inter have only scored 5. Arsenal have only scored 3. Inter are currently unbeaten in all of their last 8 matches, including the draw with Manchester City, winning away to Roma in Rome, and then obviously that 4-4 draw with Juventus we spoke about earlier. Meanwhile, Arsenal have been very, very poor in their last few matches. They were disastrous against Newcastle at the weekend, registering only 1 shot on target and not forcing Nick Pope into a single save at St James's Park. They're also, again, like with Manchester City, struggling for player fitness. Potentially Martin Odegaard could be back in some capacity for this match, which could be massive for them if they can get anything out of him. But ultimately, I look at the form of these 2 sides, I look at the way this has been going, and realistically, I think I can only really see Inter Milan getting the win here. I could see it being a 0-0, but I'm going to go for 1-0 Inter Milan. I don't think Arsenal score. I really don't. The way Inter Milan have been defending this season, I don't see Arsenal scoring with how poor they've been against Newcastle at the weekend. They have to produce something way, way better. They're going to get a result at San Siro here. 1-0 Inter Milan. That then brings us to the other massive one. It is Paris Saint-Germain taking on Atletico Madrid. 19th versus 27th. Neither of these sides have been good so far in this Champions League. Somehow, Jose Jimenez is suspended for Atletico Madrid after an accumulation of yellow cards already at this early stage in the Champions League. Atletico, to be fair to them, are still third in La Liga, despite being poor in the Champions League. Diego Simeone's son was able to get the goal in their win last night in La Liga, so that was a great result for Daddy Simeone. Meanwhile, PSG have actually put out some really big statement wins in Liga in the last couple of weeks. 3-0 away at Marseille and then 1-0 at home to Lens. So two of the top other sides in Liga, PSG have absolutely dispatched in their last couple of matches since that rather disappointing 1-1 draw with PSV Eindhoven. Atletico, of course, did lose 3-1 at home to Lille in their last fixture. So they've not played well against French sides already in this competition. So ultimately, I have to look at this fixture and say with both sides relatively fully fit, there's only going to be one winner based on current form, and that is going to be Paris Saint-Germain, who I'm going to go for only a 2-1. I was tempted to go 3-1, but I'm erring on the side of caution. I'm only going to go for 2-1, but I'd be surprised if PSG don't get the win here. Next up, it is going to be sticking with the theme of the French sides because it is now Brest and they are travelling to Sparta Prague. It is a game between the 5th place side in this competition in Brest. They are unbeaten on 7 points, but they are travelling to a 21st place and 4 points so far, Sparta Prague, who, to be fair, did let me down on Matchday 3. I gave them the big one. I was like, don't write off Sparta Prague. They could definitely give Manchester City a game with how well they've been playing in their other Champions League matches so far and how well they've been doing domestically. And then they lost 5-0 to Man City. So they did let me down a little bit there. Meanwhile, Brest, like I say, playing some brilliant stuff at the moment. Got the draw with Bayer Leverkusen on their last match day. They did lose to Nice at the weekend. So that is something to bear in mind going into this one. And Sima, their star player, is still out injured. But from what I've seen in the last couple of weeks, especially given the fact that back in Prague, Sparta have lost 2 of their last 3 games as well. For me, it's the French sides to lose. I'm going for a 2-0 win to Brest. And then finally, we have Stuttgart against Atalanta, which genuinely, being match 18 of the week, I think is the absolute toughest game to call of the entire lot. Stuttgart are 18th. Atalanta are 17th. Stuttgart won away at Juventus, drew away at Bayer Leverkusen, and were brilliant against Real Madrid, but then lost 3-1 to Real Madrid. And they also got beat 4-0 by Bayern Munich. Atalanta couldn't score against Celtic and then went and won 3-0 away at top of the table Napoli at the weekend. So I honestly, I don't know. Stuttgart, to be fair, are missing a few key players, most notably Mittelstadt, their left back. But like I say, didn't affect them getting the result against Juventus. Didn't affect them getting the result against Bayer Leverkusen. Atalanta are basically fully fit in regards to where they were previously. They still have Scamacca and Scalvini out injured, but they were injured for the entirety of the season so far. Honestly, I don't know. You'd have to say that if Stuttgart can win away to Juventus, they can beat Atalanta. But honestly, you just don't touch this game. This is the toughest game of the entire week. I can't split them. There are so many variables going into it. I'm just going to go for a 2-2 draw because honestly, I just cannot split them. And that is your lot. That is 18 out of 18 predictions for the Champions League. As I've already mentioned, I've put markers along the bottom of the screen. So if you want to jump back to any fixtures, if you're uncertain about, then you can go to whichever one you want to hear the discussions about. Thank you very much for watching. As always, thank you very much for 5,000 subscribers once again. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment sections below, whether you're commenting on an individual game or if you're commenting on the Champions League as a whole. thank you once again. I'll be back tomorrow morning with all of my predictions for the Europa League, Conference League then on Wednesday. So one final thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow morning.